Hello, my name is Morgan Soldan, and I'm a junior at FHSU. You probably haven't seen me. I'm an elementary ed major as well because I can't make the morning meetings. My project, which I guess I'm going to talk about, I uploaded a front page or one page about my project and a little flyer so you could know a little bit about it with some information and things like that. I'm going to download this Prezi into Blackboard as well so that way you can see it. My presentation is about the one-to-one iPad initiative. I think, and as I've read, the one-to-one iPad initiative is becoming very popular in school districts, and I'm going to explain a little bit about it today. So here's the one-to-one iPad initiative. The one-to-one iPad initiative, and I'm sorry it doesn't fit in the whole screen. The one-to-one iPad initiative is, there we go, is a program for a school district that sets in place for its students. It allows both staff and students in a school district to have their own iPads, and I think that's really cool and awesome. To have your own iPad, so where you have the technology that you can use for your students, so you can see it yourself, which is a cool thing when we talk about applications, which I'll talk about a little bit later. For students who are kindergartners through the 12th grades. So once they hit kindergarten, they get once a district has this initiative, in kindergarten they get their first iPad. That iPad travels with them through 12th grade. Once they hit 12th grade, the district then decides, do we want to upgrade iPads, or do we just want to circular the system and just have them go back to kindergarten? It depends on what the district wants to do at that point. So it saves the district money in the end if they want to choose that the 12th grade goes back to the kindergarten and makes it a circle, or they can upgrade. It just depends. If these iPads, depending upon the initiative and the districts, what they want, will allow or maybe not allow the iPads to go home with them, which is really cool because it extends the learning through what they're doing in the classroom on those apps to home as well. So teachers can assign homework on the apps. Now teachers need to be careful, which I'll talk about later, is not all students have internet access in their homes. But there are applications out there that don't require internet access. So they can do some of their homework on the iPad at home and then bring it with them to school. And that back and forth, they're learning. They have the iPad. It's mobile. They can take it wherever they want. And that's something really cool about the iPad initiative. So that's a little bit about the iPad initiative. Applications. A positive thing about using applications in the classroom is that these applications are available for the devices, which means a teacher can go on iTunes, which hooks up to the iPad. iTunes hooks up to the iPad, and they can go on iTunes and say, wow, this is a really cool application. They can either, the applications range from $0 to the highest that I've seen on there would be $50. And each app that the teacher buys, 10 iPads can fit in one. So let's say they buy an application. That's 50 cents. That 50 cents goes to 10 students' iPads. So all she has to do is hook it in, load the application on the iPad for all 30 of her students. So she only has to buy that application 3 times, which is only $1.50. So it's not that bad. Instead of buying it 30 times, which most applications and things like that, besides the iPad, require. So that's pretty cool about the iPad initiative. Applications are different. There's applications from word processors, such as Word, PowerPoint, Excel, to Pages and things like that on the iPad. There's also different games, such as math games, word games, reading games. There's books. There's all different types of applications the iTunes Store has to offer. For students and teachers, these applications get the most out of the technology being used. The iPad really relies on the applications to make it work in the classroom. And applications are a great way for teachers to regulate their students. So they start this application of, so I'm going to say an example. They start this application of the alphabet in the beginning of kindergarten. The first day of kindergarten, they get their iPad, they're so excited. They start working on the app called ABC. The ABC app is just an example, and it allows teachers to regulate what their students are learning. So as the child grows through kindergarten, you can see the progress they are making. So if a teacher says, man, I don't know how Jimmy, for instance, is doing on his ABCs, the teacher can go on the application and say, he's having trouble with the letter D. He keeps writing it backwards. So that shows the teacher, I know what that child needs to work on. I will give him some more papers of that project. So that's how teachers can see how their students are doing based upon the applications. And I think that's a really cool thing about the iPad. Another positive about, so here's some more positives about the iPads used in classroom and the iPad initiative. Applications are adaptable, which means in the 6th grade, the ABC app probably won't work for those students. So teachers can go on and download new apps and delete kindergarten apps or 2nd grade apps or 3rd grade apps. And every teacher can set a new set of apps for their students. So that way, let's say a student switched to schools and they use different apps. That teacher can grab that iPad, change the apps, and it's usable. So that's another great positive. iPads, and it allows teachers to reach different types of educational needs, such as one student might be a kinesthetic learner, which means they need to use their hands. They need to be going all the time using their hands. Whereas another learner might be, they need to type everything to learn everything, or they need to read it all, or those type of things. The iPad is movable for that kinesthetic learner. They can move with their hands. They can touch the iPad. The child that learns best reading, there's books on the iPad. They can read it. With the child that needs to type everything or write everything, they can physically write on the board or they can type it all. You know, those type of things are available on the iPad. And I think that's what makes it so broad and so usable all the time. iPads allow teachers to teach different multiple content areas at one time. So if a teacher wants their children to read a book about the Civil War, they can upload that book on the iPad. They're meeting reading content because they're reading. They meet social studies content because they're learning about the Civil War. So they're meeting 2 content areas with 1 book. But also there's apps on the iPad that teach math and reading. There's all different types of things where teachers can touch multiple content areas at one time. And that is a very big positive with the iPad. And iPads make learning fun and exciting for students. Students can see, wow, that is amazing. I'm so excited because I'm doing math with a cool game that I find so exciting. And seeing that in their eyes makes you as an educator feel, wow, they're really loving the technology. They're getting the content in at the same time as having fun and doing a game that they think, oh man, my teacher is awesome by the end. And so that is something that iPads give to students as well. And with older students, the same things apply. An important thing, when districts first start this initiative, it's important, there's some important things that they need to stress to their teachers. An important thing to stress is that these devices that they give to teachers and students should only be used at the district or for educational needs. It would be very easy for both older students, younger students, parents, and teachers to use these devices for personal use. But that's not what the district bought them for. The district bought them for educational needs only, and it's important that they stick to those educational needs. Teachers also need to ensure that when choosing applications that they're best fit for the children. When doing testing and things like that, teachers need to make sure that the apps, that's why they are given their iPad. They need to make sure that the apps that they put on their iPad are usable for their meeting content areas, and they're used for the entire school year. I think that is really important when teachers pick apps. You know, teachers need to test them out and say, well, on level 12, you know, this children, it has a glitch or something. They probably want to stay away from that app, and that's why the districts give them those tools, and it really helps with that. So those are important things districts need to stress. Again, there's some safety issues with iPads. iPads are devices that use the internet. Not all applications use the internet, but most of them do use the internet. And so with applications that use the internet, it's important to stress to both students, parents, and teachers, it's important to stress that the internet is not safe. The internet has some things out there that children's eyes do not need to see. And it's important to show the videos like I think we did in mobile, in Unit 10, or things like that. It's important to show the students, yes, there are some dangers with the internet. It's also important for districts to set filters and restrictions on the internet, on their iPad, on their Safari, on their iPad, and things like that. Set restrictions to only where they can see certain websites that you want them to see. So that way they don't get into those sticky situations with the internet and other things that are very bad for their eyes. What would the cost be to set this initiative? iPads are not the cheapest. iPads are not the cheapest type of tablet on the market, but they are the best for educators. Bigger districts might need to find different ways to make these accessible to students, which means they may need to buy 5 a year, or they need to buy maybe 50 a year, 2 in each classroom per grade level. And then once they build up, once they buy 50 per year, they could get to the maximum number of students they have in their school district and then supply them out to children. That way they're getting use of the iPad, and students in kindergarten, when they get to 5th grade, they can say, yeah, I've used the iPad, I know how this works. And so that way you're getting the students ready for that transition to bigger things. Why do school districts need to spend money on technology? It's important. Technology is something that students have. Their parents have cell phones. Their parents have computers. They see computers all the time. They see technology all the time. They've probably been growing up with it. And it's important for technology to be used in the classroom because that's what they're used to. They find technology fun and exciting because they see it all the time. And giving them their own device allows them to have all of that in their hands. iPads are just one technology available that work really well for education. iPads are mobile. They allow students to move. They deploy different applications and things like that. And it's important to have those things for the future because that's where we're leading. We're in the technology age. We're ready to move towards that type of technology in the classroom. So the one-to-one iPad initiative is very important because most school districts are going to these type of initiatives, and I think it's important to know about it, and so that's why I brought it to your attention today. Thank you for listening.